when I heard her say, people don't care about the how, they just want to get to the destination. And I don't think that's true. At least that's not true for the people that I work with. Because people who choose personal development, they choose to increase, learn leadership skills. People who want to lead with their heart and lead with compassion and do good in the world, I do think that they care about the how. I do think that they care about the destination. Hey, you leader, entrepreneur, business owner, solopreneur, whatever you call yourself, we know you're a visionary business builder, wealth seeker looking to combine a passion for doing good with leading consciously. It's time to shift from a traditional focus of pure wealth accumulation to one that integrates well-being and fulfillment. This is the Conscious Edge podcast, and I'm Alicia St. Germain, entrepreneur and coach. Along with my friend and wellness advocate, Jonathan Duggar, we're diving into what it means to embody radical self-acceptance while still evolving to lead with compassion and kindness. We're sharing our own experiences and expertise as we unpack imposter syndrome, perfectionism, procrastination, and all the other things that lead to burnout and keep you from experiencing pure joy, business growth, and maximum impact. This is a safe and supportive space to explore what it means to be a human creating wealth and building a business. You're here for a purpose, and it's time to shine your light. So here we go. Welcome back to the Conscious Edge podcast. I'm your host, Alicia St. Germain, and founder of the Conscious Edge, where I help women entrepreneurs create a whole lot more joy in their journey to creating wealth and building their businesses. And I'm really excited to share today's episode with you because I think that sometimes we get so caught up in the result that we are creating that we forget about how much the journey to create that result actually matters. And it's really about who we become in that process. All right, so let me back up. So I am actually diving into if you've been with me for a while, first of all, thank you for being here. And secondly, you know that I've started hinting that I am diving into learning more about Instagram and how to use it to bring more awareness to the work that we are doing at the Conscious Edge. And so in the process, I hired a coach, which I hire coaches, I do coaching, always want to be learning from other people who know more than me because it really speeds up the learning process. It speeds up the journey. It makes it easier. There's just so much that happens when you work with someone who is a specialist in what you want to learn. So in this process of working with this Instagram coach, her name is Jenna Page. She's an amazing human, and I highly, highly, highly recommend her program for anybody who wants to know more about how Instagram works. And so in the process, her program is really for anybody, whether you're brand new getting started or you're experienced in business. But it goes through some market research, some initial things that anybody who started a business, if you have not dipped into who are your target audience, what do they think, what are their problems, all of that stuff, I highly recommend it. It's a tedious process. It's, you sometimes for someone who's already doing business, you don't want to, you could be impatient in the process. That's what I would say. You might want to skip over it. And I'm always of the mindset, what this person knows more about this particular thing than I do. They have a specific process that has worked for them and worked for everybody or all the clients that they bring in that have success. It's worked for their clients. So I am not going to be so full of myself and so pompous to think I know it all. That is the surefire way to failure, is when you think that you know it all and you start skipping steps. So I went all the way back to the basics. And it's interesting because throughout all of this time of learning how to market and build a coaching business, a lot of the principles are the same as when you find deals in real estate. It all comes down to marketing and how you say things to people. But I've learned so much more in how to market my coaching business that so applies to real estate, but isn't really taught. It's so fascinating. All right. So I've learned every time I go through and I'm figuring out how do I market my business, I have this point where I get really frustrated because when you do the type of coaching that I do, mindset coaching, transformational work, helping people peel back layers of why they do certain behaviors, and really be a lot more self-aware. A lot of the results that come from doing that kind of work seem really intangible. And so one of the things that happens is people, and this is where I got a little bit off course at the very beginning of building my coaching business, was I felt like I couldn't talk about doing my type of coaching because everybody in marketing said that's intangible, like you need a tangible result, like lose 2 pounds in 2 weeks or make your first 10,000 or whatever it is, 6-figure business, blah, 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 right? So, and I would be like, yeah, but I don't really teach a strategy that I could guarantee that you're going to hit those things. I can tell you that when people work with me, whatever it is that they're up to, whatever programs they've been in previously, the ROI goes up because they start being able to apply principles that previously they've been resistant to. They get there faster because they're not slowed down with procrastination and perfectionism. They feel happier in the process. Like they don't feel as stressed and worried and scared that they're not going to get there. They feel more confident. They feel less stressed. They have more peace in their heart. Like the whole process becomes a lot more experienced or a lot more enjoyable experience. And so my coach is saying, like, if you can't draw a picture of that, like you can't draw a picture of confidence and have it be really specific. And I was like, yeah, it's different for everyone. How does everyone describe that? And so the feedback kept being, but you can't draw a picture of that. You can't draw a picture of that. And I was like, here we go again. I feel like somebody's trying to shove me in a box and it's not working. And it's very easy when you're struggling with something that someone is trying to teach you and you can't see it. You're like so close to it. You can't see it and you don't know how to get it right? If you've ever had the feeling of getting it right. And so you're like, you don't get me. You want to blame. Here's what's coming up. Like you want to blame the coach. You want to blame the process. You want to blame the strategy. You want to say like, this isn't working. I'm different. I'm special. Right. And so I do get that feeling, right? That feeling starts to come up and I'm like, I'm in this cycle again where I feel like I have to disguise what I'm doing to people because they told me I have to sell a specific result. But also alongside that frustration, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to let this simmer. I'm going to move on. I'm going to keep doing things. I'm going to say things the wrong way according to the coaching. I'm just going to do it anyways. But I'm going to allow space that maybe there is something here that is going to come forward and become clear to me. So just leaving that possibility open, but still moving forward. And so I started to get this feeling like, yeah, you know what though? Maybe it's not the result, but the way that you do things matters. And I don't know how you draw a picture of that exactly, but the way you do things matters. The journey And the experience of that journey matters. And I started to get this like formulation in my head that maybe this is like the journey to the destination. And how many people think, I'm wondering, I will be happy when I hit my destination. I will be happy when I hit my goal. I will be happy when my passive income exceeds what my expenses are. I will be happy when I have X amount of doors. I will be happy when my business creates stable income and I can go on vacation and I no longer need to check in 5 days because I've got a great power team, great people who are around me who I know are going to run my business even when I'm not there. And so I can truly, truly, truly check out. I can take a sick day or sick days and be fine because even when I'm sick, money is still coming because of all the systems and processes that I've set up. And I thought, why would you wait to start having fun and be happy and enjoy your life when you're on vacation? Like that is the equivalent of me saying, I will only be happy in my life when I am in Hawaii, enjoying the beautiful beach and the beautiful scenery and relaxing. But up until that point, like getting to Hawaii, I am going to grind and be miserable. And I'm going to fly standby from Minnesota in the middle of the winter. And when I finally get on that plane, I'm going to choose to sit in the back row in the middle seat next to the bathroom for multiple segments that it's going to take me to get there. And when I arrive 17 hours later, then I'll be happy and I'll enjoy everything. You're going to be so beat up and miserable that at some point you might even decide, you know what, screw it. I'm not getting on the plane. This isn't worth it. I can't seem to get a flight out. Or you're going to get there and you're going to be so beat up that it's going to take you a day or two to recover before you even feel like you can start vacationing. That doesn't make sense to me. That does not compute for me. And I know people do that in real life. I know that's how you take trips. But it reminded me of, I'm sitting there and I'm listening to some of the coaching that she's giving. And she happens to say, so this whole thing is starting to formulate in my head, right? And then all of a sudden she says, and this is where sometimes things will click in, where you'll just have this moment of clarity. And she says, people don't want to buy the journey. They want to buy the destination, right? So sell the destination, sell where they want to get to. And so for me, like the people that I work with, they want financial freedom. They want to have that total autonomy over their time. They want to be able to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, with who they want to do it, where they want to do it. And to create that kind of life takes time. You don't just magically go, this is what I want. And so therefore, I'm going to just wave my magic wand and I'm going to get it. And just because you claim it doesn't mean you're entitled to it if you're not going to do what it takes to get there. And I'm thinking in my head, like, that is such a long, far off journey. And I don't want to say long, far off, but it's so far into the future that I don't think selling someone is sitting here and saying, like, I'm going to help you create financial freedom is probably the thing to sell, because I don't think that's what people are thinking about in the day-to-day. I think that's the ultimate goal, but I don't think that's necessarily in the day-to-day. And so I was like trying to figure out, how do I articulate, how do I say what doing personal development and coaching does for you when that's your goal? And I work with so many different people that have different types of goals. It could be, some people are buying multifamily. Some people have short-term rentals. Some people have businesses that are related to real estate. Some people are realtors. And so they are kind of like a solopreneur in that they may work with an organization, but they're solely in charge of their income and like how they're going to create more of that income, right? And so there's all these people with all these different aspects. And so it makes it very hard to speak to one specific result because everybody listening wants a different result. When I heard her say, people don't care about the how, they just want to get to the destination. And I don't think that's true. At least that's not true for the people that I work with. Because people who choose personal development, they choose to increase, like learn leadership skills. People who want to lead with their heart and lead with compassion and do good in the world. I do think that they care about the how. I do think that they care about the destination. And so it made me think of this time when I was traveling around the country training real estate. And I would typically go in for 3 days, sometimes 2. And then I'd fly in the day before. I'd train for 3 days. And then I'd either fly out on the red eye because I wanted to get home to my husband, or I'd fly out the next day. And as I've gotten older and I have kids and other things happening, when I'm doing things like that, I tend to actually fly out the next day because I actually like to take the time to rest before I get home to my family. I didn't have to do that before, but that's if you've listened to previous episodes, my guilty pleasure is staying in hotels without my family. Like I want them there, but I also really love that they're not. So it's really funny. So at this time, I digress. At this time, I was doing this. I had an opportunity to come up to go to Hawaii. It wasn't my first time to Hawaii. I'd had other opportunities to go to Hawaii. I went there, trained, spent a couple days. We vacationed. My husband came with me. My mom came with me. It was super fun. But this next time came up for me to go to Hawaii. And I thought, I've been there before. I don't need to spend the extra time. I'm just going to fly in and fly out. This was a company that was contracting me to go do these real estate trainees. And so I ended up flying out on Friday morning. Imagine this, flying out Friday morning at 6 a.m. So I'm up like at 3. And I get there, it's like 4 p.m. their time. I think that's like 10 or 11. I don't know the conversion. I think that's like 10 or 11 my time. So I'm exhausted. I've been flying all day. I've had several connections. And mind you, at that point, I'd been flying so much, I had status. So I was sitting in like pretty good seats. I may have even gotten upgraded. I'm not sure on that flight or on some of those flights. I probably got upgraded to first class because of how much I was traveling. But I flew in, got in at 4 p.m., ate some food, went to bed early, like probably at 6 or 7 p.m. their time. Woke up super early the next morning because I'm still on Ohio time and I'm in Hawaii and I have jet lag, right? So train for 12 hours. So I think that was till like 8 p.m. that night, which is like 2 o'clock in the morning, my time. Get up the next day, train for 12 more hours. So I did 2 12-hour training days. And so I finish up, it's like 8 p.m. and I have like 11 p.m., 12, something like that. 11 p.m., 1 a.m., something, red eye out because the company didn't want to pay for a hotel room for that night when I could take a red eye back. And in hindsight, I should have been like, fine, I'll pay the hotel room, right? I should have just I don't know what I was thinking, why I thought I could do this. And then I flew back on the red eye and then got home at maybe 4 p.m. on Monday morning. So imagine going from Ohio to Hawaii. You go from Ohio to Hawaii, you leave on Friday, you come back on Monday. Who takes a trip to Hawaii that looks like that? And so the next time the opportunity came up to go to Hawaii, the person who was assigning what trainer went where called me and said, hey, would you rather go to Phoenix, Arizona or Hawaii? And I was like, Phoenix. She's like, oh, I'm really surprised. I thought you'd want to go to Hawaii. I was like, there is nothing about going to Hawaii like that sounds remotely appealing to me. And mind you, I didn't even fly. Like, it wasn't like I was flying like in an uncomfortable way. And so that was the moment when that popped in my head, that she said that your clients want to buy the destination. They don't care about the journey. They don't care about the how. I was like, I think they might. If they knew what I knew, I think they might. And so this whole thing started to formulate. I was like, oh, doing mindset work, working with like your leadership, dealing with your triggers, learning how to be resilient when there's turbulence, all of the non-tangible skills that I can't draw a picture of are what make the journey to your destination a lot more enjoyable. Because when I think about it, like when you first start your business, when you first decide, okay, I'm going to start my business, you might get in the car and you're listening to podcasts and you're reading books and you're kind of fumbling through and Googling and figuring it out along the way. You may get there, you may get to your destination, but it is going to take you a really long time. And by the way, in the car is every inner critic that lives in your head, every bullying experience you had when you were a kid, every self-limiting belief, every big assumption about how you think the world works. Like, that's all the people in the car with you. And that at some point you're like, if everybody doesn't be quiet, I'm going to turn this car around and we're going to go home. Right? When you start to think about your journey to your goal like that, you start to realize why it's a struggle. It's frustrating. And at some point, you might not have the motivation to get back in that car. And so when you get a coaching program and you learn a strategy or a skill, I think about people, if you want to learn how to buy businesses, you go find somebody who specializes in learning how to buy businesses. You want to invest in real estate, you find someone who specializes in the type of real estate that you want to invest in. And what that does is that gets you on the plane. So instead of driving the car, now you're on the plane. Now you're not on standby. You bought your ticket onto that plane. And so now you're going to get there faster, but you're still traveling. All the passengers on that plane are still the same people that were in the car with you. And so when you arrive at your destination, you're more beat up, you're more tired. Maybe your seat didn't recline. You sat next to the bathroom, right? You had like a bad experience. And even if you managed your mind the whole way and you kept a positive attitude and you were like, nope, I'm going to make the best of this. I'm going to my destination. I'm going to be in Hawaii soon. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to get there. You still had all of that up against you and around you, and it wears on you and it makes you tired. And so when you finally get there, yes, you're going to enjoy it and it's going to be fun. And it might take you a minute to recalibrate when you do get there because of all that battering. And by the way, when you get to your destination, if you haven't dealt with all that baggage and you haven't dealt with all those people and all those inner critics that are sitting on the plane with you, yeah, they're going to be on vacation with you too. So even though you're in the best place in the world, even though you've hit your goal and you've achieved that freedom, that stuff is still locked up and living in your head, living with you. And you've still got some old habits that you've brought with you, and you've still brought some old belief patterns that are not serving you. But when you take the time, and this can be done at any level, it can be done after you've achieved that. Because here's what happens for those people who don't deal with that and they get there, is that they have this life that they dreamed, and only it doesn't feel like vacation. It doesn't feel like success. What it feels like is you brought all that stuff with you. And so now you're going to deal with it there. So it doesn't matter to me if you do this while you're riding in the car, and maybe the car just gets a little bit more silent. Maybe you get to ride with your best pals in the world. You've held healthy boundaries and you're in that car and you're driving, and it might be taking you longer because you're not quite doing it. You don't have all the strategy in place yet to make it so that you can get on that plane. That's okay. You're enjoying the journey a whole lot more, and you're taking the best damn road trip you've ever had in your life. Excuse my language. But yeah, it's a lot more fun. Or you could be on a flight and maybe you got to take some connections, but you're with your pals. So you don't mind. And you're having a good time, and you still got to deal with some of the jokers that drank too much on the plane, or, some of those other critics that still hang out around you. But when you do personal development work and you are constantly upgrading yourself, when you are working on your leadership, when you are working on yourself, and that is the foundational thing that you do, and you put your strategy on top of it, to me, that's like upgrading yourself. At some point, you might be flying private and you've curated your best friends to be there alongside of you, who believe in you and cheer you on. And you arrive at your destination. It still takes work. You're still a little bit tired. It still takes time, but it's faster to get there. It's less taxing on your body and your mind and your soul. And you probably, even though you might have hit some turbulence, even though there may have been some delays leaving the airport, even though you might have gotten diverted, it was such a more enjoyable experience, the entire destination. That's what I think personal development work and the type of coaching that I do does for people. And that's why I think you need it at every level, and why you never stop doing it. And why I think that when people come to work with me, they do have a tendency to stay for several years, because there's always another level. They're always continuing to upgrade their experience. They're moving from being in the car to getting on the plane in the back row, to having some extra leg room, to getting into first class, to now getting into flying private. That's what that extra mile does. It's not the strategy. Yes, the strategy helps you get there faster, but this work, mindfulness, all of the things that Jonathan and I have been talking to you for months about, that is what makes the entire journey the best experience it can possibly be. It's what makes the ups and downs feel fun and exciting, or at the very least, like they're not going to kill you. It makes all the difference in the world. Doing this work makes it more likely that you're going to get on the plane and stay on the plane, that you're not going to decide, whoa, we hit some very serious. Imagine an engine breaks. You got a connection and an engine breaks. There are going to be people who don't get on another plane because that emergency landing that they had to make at another airport is going to make it so they may never want to get on another connecting flight again. They're not going to get on the flight and get to the destination. They're going to rent a car and drive back home because that was so terrifying for them. That is what this journey is like. And I don't know how to specifically make it more tangible than to draw that analogy, but I think I've landed, pun intended, I think I've landed my point. If you want to get to your destination faster, if you want to be less beat up and burned out, and you want to enjoy the experience even when the hard moments come up, you want to know that you've absolutely got a handle on it. If like doing this work is like betting on yourself. It's like saying, I am going to get to my goal no matter what happens, because I know that I'm in control of what I'm going to respond, of how I'm going to respond and handle every situation that comes my way, good or bad. To me, it's the best way you guarantee your success, because you're not going to quit. You're going to find a way through because you have the resilience and you have that what it takes. And so this is about putting yourself on the best ride possible while you're on that way to that destination. It's about curating the people that are on that journey with you. And by people, I mean physical people around you in your life, but I also mean the voices in your head, the things that are said to you in your head. That's what doing this work is like. And so now what I find myself doing from a marketing perspective is I start thinking about you as being on that plane and being on that journey. You've got likely some strategy under your belt. You've been in other courses. You're there, but now you want to start upgrading your experience. You want to start upgrading the experience you're having on the way to achieving your final result. And that, for me, has been a game changer when I started thinking about it like that. So I haven't figured out exactly how that turns into messaging, but I think if you get this, then you're going to understand why Jonathan and I are so passionate about bringing this work to the world, about creating compassionate leaders and helping you be one of those people. And because we know that if you don't put time and energy into this, I don't know that you'll ever actually feel successful. Yeah, you'll have stuff around you. You'll be at your destination. But are you going to feel successful? Because you're still going to have those inner critics. You're still going to have those toxic family members on vacation with you. And I don't know how else to say that or land that any more clearly. So, yeah, this work is important. And the way that you take this journey matters. I would love to connect with you on Instagram. My handle is I think it's called a handle. I don't know. I might be aging myself. At Alicia, A-L-E, make sure you get the E, A-L-E-C-I-A, St. G. A-L-E-C-I-A-S-T-G. I would love for you to connect with me there. I am going to be talking more about how to make this journey to becoming wealthy and building a business and creating financial freedom for yourself, a joyful, easy, in-flow, fun experience where you get to prioritize the people you love, your own personal wellness is a priority, and you get to make a difference in the world. So you get to feel good and fulfilled all the way through your journey to reaching that final destination. And when you get to that final destination, I think you're probably going to come up with something else you want to journey through, because I don't think people ever just arrive at the destination. Life is the entire journey. So I would love to connect with you there. I am learning how to have some fun, make it edutaining. It's another avenue for me to be able to connect with people and share my heart and my vision for you to be this powerful, compassionate leader who makes a difference in the world. And if you are ready to start exploring what it would look like to do this work, I want to encourage you to go to consciousedge.com/free training. I'm going to be doing a free training around what this work actually entails. What does it look like to actually do this work? And if it is past that point where we don't have a live training, this will be giving you access to a recorded version of that training so that you can get all of that information. So now, with all of that being said, I'm sending you so much love. And if Jonathan were here, he would say, be well. Thanks for listening to the Conscious Edge podcast. Make sure you subscribe and take a moment to be kind and share this episode with someone you care about. Leave a review to help us bring more compassionate leaders building businesses and creating wealth to the table. And for show notes, head over to consciousedge.com/podcast. This podcast and the linked materials are presented solely for general information, educational, and entertainment purposes and should not be taken as personal or medical advice or any kind of mental health treatment. Please consult a medical or mental health professional if you feel you need such services. Please be advised that all investing and entrepreneurial endeavors involve risk, and the use of the education and information on this podcast and linked materials is at the user's own risk.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.